Okay, before we get into the video, I just want to quickly state that I am just a reporter. I don't know anything. I have no insider knowledge, none of that. And please, I beg of you guys, watch until the end of the video. By the time you get to the end of the video, please come down below, comment and say, yes, this is real, no, it's not real, or what are your general thoughts on it, okay? So, on Twitter, before I went to bed yesterday, I actually saw this post that talked about the Final Fantasy 35th anniversary. If you guys didn't know, Final Fantasy is having its 35th anniversary this year, which is a very big congratulations to the company, as Final Fantasy has become a very big popular phenomenon. And so whenever it gets these huge milestones, Square Enix does like to do general presentations, mostly hype up and talk about the series as a whole and see where they want to take the direction of Final Fantasy so that people are more excited. 35th anniversary is a very big milestone for the company, as that means that Final Fantasy has literally been here for 35 years, which is literally insane. And it's definitely going to hope for another 35 years. So Final Fantasy 70th anniversary would actually be really cool. And I hope I am alive to see it. But regardless, we did get a brand new 4chan leak, rumor, whatever you want to call it, that included a ton of stuff for the 35th anniversary and announcements. I want to say, please take all of this with a grain of salt. We all know leakers can definitely lie. People lie all the time. So they claim as being a leaker, but in reality, none of this gets announced, or some of it gets announced and whatnot. And my general thoughts on all of this will be at the very end of the video. So if you guys want to know what I think about it, you can just skip to the very end and whatnot. So let's just go through the entire list. Let's talk about it in its entirety and just go through it. So they first said that the presentation is going to be held on February 7th, and it will have early access to press in February 2nd. Normally when this happens, the reason why it happens for early access is because in Japan anyways, or what I've noticed with just Square Enix in general, is that they like to get a lot of the interviews done with like Famitsu and Gemitsu and whatnot, and they just like to get it done, and they have these like various talks and conversations with them, so that as soon as like presentations like these come out, it will be kind of like in a couple of days they kind of announce the rest of this. Like they show off all the interviews that they've had with these news articles and whatnot. So it kind of makes sense for them to do this. So the first part, not like, oh, impossible, but it is still possible that they could also do this as well. The leaker claims that the total runtime will be an hour 24 minutes. It'll have an opening history presentation for Final Fantasy as an entirety, which, okay, I guess we can definitely see this happening. And then it will go into kind of like these brand new promotional materials for Final Fantasy Online, and Final Fantasy Mobile is what they say, and claim that they split the three into these presentations. So let's just jump into the Final Fantasy part. So first things first, they said that they're going to show Final Fantasy Pixel Remastered, and it will be a short promotional video. This is definitely possible because we are seeing that Final Fantasy Pixel Remastered will be on more consoles. So okay, I guess. Then they said they're going to show off their brand new rhythm game that they are going to be showing off, and I think that's coming out very soon actually. So this, again, totally fine. We can definitely see a promotional video for it. Not huge advertising, but it'll be there. Then this is where things start getting out the rails, okay? So first things first, number one, Hironobu, which I believe is the creator of Final Fantasy IX story, will be announcing that Final Fantasy IX will have a brand new remake this fall. This is something that I feel like will not be happening at all this year, if anything, mainly because we do know that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will be coming out later in, I guess, winter is what they said, and we don't know if winter states this year winter, which would be December, or next year winter, which would be around January of the next year. So literally around this time next year. And again, to put Final Fantasy IX Remake really close to Final Fantasy Rebirth would kind of not be a very smart idea for Square Enix anyways. But again, this is something that I personally don't think is going to happen. But if it does, yeah, I guess. Then we have the World of Final Fantasy II, a Mog of Lights, coming in May 19, 2023. This I don't think is gonna happen, but again, it's one of those things where it's like we can kind of see it happening because World of Final Fantasy doesn't really have a lot of advertising. World of Final Fantasy 2, I guess, I don't really see that happening. Let me know in the comment section if you guys actually know. Then they have this thing called Stories of Yggdrasil. What is that? I've never heard of this game series in my life. Wait, this is a Final Fantasy game? War of the Lions, apparently supposed to coming in summer of 2023. Let me let y'all know, this is is definitely not going to be happening. For summer of 2023, that would be direct competition with Final Fantasy 16, and I don't think they'd want that to happen at all. So this is possibly already gone. If it's going to be summer of this year, it's got to be like August or something like that. So that I feel like is not happening. Like, just straight up cut it. Then they said Final Fantasy X-3 will be in a now in development stage. Again, this is something that we kind of seen before within the NVIDIA leaks, that there is a X-3 apparently. But again, this is one of those things where it's like, for X-3 to come out, we have to finish Final Fantasy 16. It's got to finish Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So having a now in development sign doesn't necessarily mean that this is again deconfirmed, but we can definitely see it, I guess, but it definitely won't be releasing anytime this year. So it's going to be next year, which again, Square Enix has always been notorious for announcing games super early. So this is something I can actually see happening, but again, I'm not 100% sure. So please, grain of salt, please. Then we have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, called quote unquote Memories trailer, coming out winter still. This is something I can also actually see happening, but again, I'm also taking this with a very grain of salt. Then a Final Fantasy 16 focal presentation will be shown off. This is something I could also see actually happening at this event for an anniversary. The reason why I say that is because we have from now until literally June for them to start ramping up and start talking more about Final Fantasy 16 content, which, if you guys don't know, Square Enix loves to go super hard in the paint with this, and there's definitely going to be a lot more interviews and stuff like that. So I definitely think that we will probably get this, but again, they said that this is a focal presentation announcement, and this will be done on March 24, 2023. I'm not sure about the date, but I can definitely tell and see that we will probably be getting a very big deep dive into Final Fantasy 16, although I don't think it's going to be in March. I think it's going to be more or less towards May, as what if you've kind of seen what Nintendo does with their like mini directs or like specific directs on specific games. They love to cover a huge amount of stuff for like that, but like a lot closer to the date of release. So I think Square Enix might follow the same approach when it comes to that sort of advertising, and it just kind of makes more sense if they did do it like that. If not, the demo is probably going to be released in May, and we'll probably get this a little bit earlier, so it might be in like April or maybe even March. It could also be March, but again, I'm still very skeptical about the dates in specific, but who knows? I'm not in the Square Enix headquarters at all. I don't know nothing. And that was pretty much everything that they talked about for the Final Fantasy segment of that presentation. Next, they're talking about the Final Fantasy Online presentation and whatnot. So this this is something crazy. So first things first, number one, they said the Final Fantasy 11 and Final Fantasy 14 subscription Unity project this fall. I have no idea what that means specifically. I'm assuming it's just going to be one of those things where it's like you can pay for the sub for both of those games, but let it be very clear, let me know right now, Final Fantasy 11, Final Fantasy 14 subscription Unity project, I'm pretty sure it ain't happening. The thing is, for me, is that it doesn't make sense for Square Enix to make not one but two rivaling MMOs at the exact same time. It makes no sense whatsoever, in my opinion. I think this is just bogus. It's definitely not going to happen at all. Then they said Final Fantasy 11 begins rework project this fall. Again, don't think it's going to happen whatsoever, mainly because Final Fantasy 14 is already a very popular MMO for Square Enix. It makes no sense for them to start alienating their player base and start making two different MMOs, in my opinion. It doesn't make any sense. They've already been very successful with Final Fantasy 14. There's no need for them to go back and make another successful MMO with Final Fantasy 11, which again, makes no sense. I don't think it's gonna happen. It sounds very out of reach. This is a very big reach, in my opinion. Lastly, we're gonna get Naoki Yoshida, who will be doing a Final Fantasy 14 A Realm Reborn anniversary. Again, if you guys didn't know, it's going to be A Realm Reborn's 10-year anniversary for Final Fantasy 14 this year, as well as the 35th anniversary of Final Fantasy. So I definitely see something for Final Fantasy 14 having an anniversary event. There's definitely going to be something big and maybe even announcements for Final Fantasy 14. But as of right now, I just think it's going to be maybe like an in-game event or something. I don't really know. Maybe they'll show off patch 7. Who knows? But I think it would be really cool. And honestly, there definitely is going to be something shown for Final Fantasy XIV this year. So that's all there is to the Final Fantasy Online portion. Now let's get into the mobile stuff, and we're finished with this whole thing. So with the mobile stuff, they said Ever Crisis is going to have a closed beta in August of this year. This I actually do believe will be announced at some point. I don't think it's going to be announced this early, but again, who knows? Then they're going to do Final Fantasy Dissidia, Opera, whatever the heck this is. I don't think it's going to be like that, but whatever. Dissidia hasn't really been doing that well as of right now, so maybe they'll do it again, I guess, but I don't really know. And lastly, they're going to do Final Fantasy Brave Exvius promotional video. This, again, I definitely see happening because they always love to advertise Brave Exvius, so it's their like bread and butter. It's one of the few mobile games that is still up as of right now, so definitely can see this happening, but again, I'm not 100% sure. So let's talk about this as an entirety. So my general thoughts on this is that the presentation seems pretty promising. It is promising a lot of things, to the point where I feel like it is promising a little bit too many announcements to be done in not just this timeline, but in just for the 35th anniversary. I don't think they're gonna do this at all. What I believe we're gonna get at most, mind you, I believe out of all these announcements, there's going to be a total of maybe like 5 of them in total max. Mind you, that's me being very generous, in my opinion. In my opinion, the things that I could possibly see actually being shown off in like a quote unquote presentation or live stream format in any way whatsoever is the following: Final Fantasy XVI having a focal presentation, probably going to be happening. That is something I actually genuinely think we will see. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is probably not going to get a trailer, but I think we're going to get an image kind of teasing the game in some shape or form, as we kind of had this in one of the other Final Fantasy anniversaries. So that's probably going to happen. Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn Anniversary is definitely going to happen. An announcement for Final Fantasy Ever Crisis Closed Beta is probably going to happen. And Brave Exvius promotional material is probably going to happen. Everything else on this list, complete garbage. It doesn't make sense for them to announce all of this in just one whole presentation. Yes, it is Final Fantasy's 35th anniversary, but we have to keep in mind, and this is something that makes sense for me personally, I don't think Final Fantasy has ever made anywhere near close of an announcement to this magnitude in years. And this is me speaking in terms of Square Enix being at E3 in 2015. They literally have not made anything this huge in forever. I don't think I've ever seen Square Enix announce so many titles in one presentation, like ever. And I think that's a smart thing for them to do, because it doesn't make sense for them to continuously have this huge amount of stuff to announce in one presentation. It doesn't make sense for them. You're just confusing people who are going to be excited for things to come in the future if you announce all this at once. I think what I mentioned before in this list makes sense. It's something that people are really excited for, and these are already things that have already been announced. I don't think we're gonna get all of this. Doesn't make sense to me. And yeah, that's about it. I know this video is a little bit more of me ranting and whatnot, and talking about the lists and whatnot, but if you guys did like the video, make sure you guys hit a like. Comment down below, what do you guys actually think they're gonna show off relatively soon, because it is going to be Final Fantasy's 35th anniversary, and I definitely think Square Enix is going to do something absolutely big and major for this event. So please let me know in the comment section down below. If you guys want to see more Final Fantasy stuff, make sure you guys hit subscribe, and as well check out the playlist for Final Fantasy 16 that I already have up. It's pretty good. So if you guys want to know everything Final Fantasy 16 related, make sure you guys check out that playlist, and I will see you guys very soon in the next video. My name is Adam, also known as V2, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.